All right. Thank you for joining us for this presentation. My name is Art, and I'm the creative director at Shop Invader.
Hi, I'm Dorit, and I'm the content manager at Shop Innovator.
And Shop Innovator helps business owners to build, promote, and support their e-commerce stores. And we've been doing it for a couple of decades, and our specialty is in the home and garden category.
So, Art, why are we here today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Today, we're doing a video presentation about the industry that is called the gardening products. Okay. And specifically, we're going to talk about how to sell gardening products online more successfully. And we're going to cover 10 profit generating strategies that will make your products easier to sell online.
And I think what's important also to add is that we're going to spend the majority of our time covering the top five profit generators, and the other five are things that hopefully by now, as an e-commerce store owner, that are important. So we couldn't not mention them because they are important, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on there. So please make sure that you spend the majority of your time paying attention to the top five points on that list.
Right. Sounds good. Yeah. And if, at any time, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And also on this page, you can download a PDF guide that is going to help you as well follow those steps to help with your online presence for your store.
Yeah, right. Let's get started.
Yes, sounds good. All right. So yeah, today we're going to talk about the gardening niche and the gardening products. And like Dorit mentioned, we have 10 areas that we're going to talk about. The first 5 are brand clarity, products, social proof, trust signals, and how-to content. And then the next 5 will be email list, speed, mobile, navigation, and cart. So we will focus more on the first 5 because they are, something that I think will create more difference for you. Nonetheless, the other 5 are more technical and they're very important. They're like a given these days. All right. Yeah. So let's get started. All right. So let's start with the first one. The first one on our list is called brand clarity. So what is brand clarity? Brand clarity is essentially the simple question is, can a person that comes to your website within 2 seconds realize what you are doing and where you're selling, right? What is your brand all about? So for example, we're going to be showing some examples today. Let's open one of the websites that we have here. And this is going to be...
Yeah, I think let's have 2 examples of where a brand is clear and where a brand is, or the brand clarity isn't the best.
Yes, exactly. So let's start with a good example. So we have here a brand called Planta Greenhouses. And when you come to their website, you can pay attention how clear it is what they sell, right? You have a large picture of a greenhouse and a headline right here that says, grow better, heavy duty greenhouses loved by growers around USA. And then a call to action, a button, view greenhouses. So within a few seconds, like you look at the site, you realize, okay, where you are, right? So this is an important first step. Make sure that your brand is clear online. Now, let's look at another example of a website that is not as clear, and especially maybe aesthetically not as clean looking. And this is just a website we found online today, just by Googling something similar to greenhouse. So there's another greenhouse website. And you can see that it shows greenhouses, but it's a bit more busy. So your eye as a visitor needs to try to find what is this about, right? And it's also not as clear that this is a a shopping website, right? It's more difficult to find out that there's no call to action to look at the greenhouses, right?
Art, I have a question that I think our listeners are also wondering. Why does it matter? Like here on this website, now that we're looking at it, I start reading and okay, they're selling greenhouses. I can see, and I see that there are maybe 4 collections here. I mean, if you start digging, you'll find what you're looking for. But let's also discuss the reason why brand clarity, specifically within the first 5 seconds of somebody landing on a page, why it matters today. As we're recording this, it's June of 2023. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So there's a few answers to it. The basic answer is that in today's world, there's so much stuff going on online, especially post-pandemic. A lot of companies went online, and for the customer side, right, for a potential customer, it means that there's really a lot of results that come up when they search for, gardening stuff online. So then because there's so many options, your attention span as a customer is a little bit short, so you kind of can jump quicker between sites. So think about like usually how do people buy online? There's different stages. Yeah, there's different stages of how, people or how we shop online, how we find products. And typically in the marketing world, the stages are 4, 5, 6 stages. And generally it goes like this. First stage is you usually have some kind of awareness that you have a problem. We call it the awareness stage, right? You figure out, okay, let's say we talk about greenhouses. It's usually a person who has experience growing outdoors. And then they're like figuring out, oh, you know what? Like I have bad weather or I have issues growing certain things outdoors. I think I need a greenhouse. That's like an awareness stage. The second stage is usually like research, right? Especially in today's world, it's so easy to do research right away. Just like take your phone and then like start Googling and you start the research phase, right? Get some ideas. Let's say if it's a greenhouse, you type greenhouses or certain type of greenhouse, small greenhouse, backyard greenhouse, commercial greenhouse. That's called the research stage. So in the research stage, we don't have a lot of patience because there's so many results. So if you end up on this type of website where the brand is very clear, there's clarity of the brand versus this one, the way you would browse the website will also be different, right? You might spend here less time and then here more time because it's just easier to navigate and it's clear, right? There's right away a button that takes me to the next page. Right?
Yeah, or at least there's a chance that somebody will continue browsing and continue exploring this, what this brand has to offer. Correct. Versus the other company where the eye is just so busy. It's not something we think about. It's a very intuitive process. You land here and then you're like, oh, it's too much, and you just leave. Right.
Yeah. So the clarity is very important. So it's a great question, Dorit. And then just to wrap up the stages of the buying cycle, we talked about like awareness, and then you have research. And then after we do some research, we get into a stage called consideration, right? Where we looked at like 20, 30 different websites, right? And then we might consider a few of the results that we found. They're like, oh, these guys look more interesting, or this company looks more trustworthy. So in this stage, we kind of start doing consideration. So that's where we consider, price, delivery, the quality, these kind of things. Once you already know in your research, what you found out. Okay. So consideration stage is also very important, and we'll talk about it a bit later. And then finally, the fourth stage is usually the purchase. And that's when you actually make the decision. Okay, I'll go with this brand. Let me make the purchase. And there's a whole process usually of purchasing, right? Going to the website, adding product to cart, doing the checkout, paying for it, choosing shipping options, and so on. And then the final stage is the post-purchase, which is very important as well, often overlooked. is like what happens after somebody placed an order. It's not done deal yet. There's still a lot of stuff that's happening. So these are like the general 5 stages of the buying cycle. So they all come into consideration. And I think for you, if you own a brand that sells online, it's important to consider each of those stages, because at each stage, it's good to present different types of content on your website. And we'll talk about that soon. All right. So in terms of the first step, what we want to look at is the brand clarity, is how clear is your message and what you do on the first few seconds. The clearer it is, you're helping your prospects to become customers.
Yeah. And I just also want to add, we've had many conversations with, I would say, pretty frustrated business owners who know that they have the most amazing product, and they're frustrated because their product doesn't sell. And so one of the, I guess the first things we look at is the website. And what we kind of illuminate for them is that the problem is not with the product. The problem is how your product is presented. And at that stage, that's where I think business owners kind of overlook the value and the importance of a website. Okay. Sometimes, most of our work that we do with our clients, it's actually a rebrand or a redesign. Yeah. We do, launch new companies, new products onto the market, but actually the majority of our clients are people who already have, presence online. And for some reason, it's really hard to sell the product. It doesn't sell as well. And specifically, I think, in Planta's maybe example that we can share is when we redesigned their website, it, the sales right away, there was a spike in the sale. And that was a great experiment, especially I think for the customer, the client, that he realized, oh, okay. So the reason wasn't the product. The reason for, selling, the selling challenge they had was because the presentation wasn't what it now is, it is. And they're really doing great online. They're kicking ass.
Right. So, yeah. So to your point, that's why the second pillar or the second part we talk about is the product, right? And within the product, it's great as a business owner for you as a listener, pay attention to how your product is presented, right? And which product you're featuring on your website. So let's go through a few parts of what product means, and then it might help you also elevate how your product is presented. So let's go back to this example, Planta, and we'll go through it. So one of the first questions we ask is, online, it's all visual. So does your product have good pictures, right? And that usually takes a long time to collect good photos, right? Especially if you're sourcing your products from other suppliers that you don't make them yourself, then it takes time. And again, gardening niche, the industry is large. So your product might be a product that does not require a lot of pictures, right? For example, you're selling some liquids, maybe some stuff to help grow things. In that case, you might not need a lot of pictures, but you might want to show pictures of results of using your product, right? That also helps a lot. In other cases, like let's say if it's a greenhouse, you want to show as many pictures as possible because usually it's a large structure that has many components to it. And, the visitors to the website want to see as many pictures as possible. So let's say in this case, different angles, outside, inside, different options. So the more pictures, the better. And we also recommend to have a video, right? If possible. Ideally, the video can be like a real filmed video where you show the product in action. And if it's not possible, sometimes we create a video that is a presentation style, right? Which is essentially a slideshow of pictures that have text appear on the pictures with some background music. It also helps the visitor to see your product in a more interactive way, right? Where they don't have to search and read a lot of text. They can see it in a visual way. And those videos can be much easier to create. They don't require like a bigger budget or to go somewhere and film it on location. Okay, so that's why one of the first things we look at is the product. Does it have good photos and video as well, if possible? Second
and then
thing
also,
is,
yeah, product descriptions are super, super critical here. Again, specifically because at that stage, so remember we just talked about the 5 stages, the 5 buying stages of a human online who wants to buy stuff online. What happens where this comes becomes important is in the research and consideration stages. So at that point, somebody is like, oh, okay, it's clear that this website sells greenhouses, and then they start scrolling. They probably will read, the little summary, the features, and then if you scroll down, of course, they're going to look at the pictures. They will see the video, and then they'll start kind of exploring more about this product. What we are targeting here is their perceived value, right? So what we are working to establish is this product is great. It has everything that I'm looking for, right? It has all the features clearly explained, the sizes, properly showcased. I see the review. I see their reviews for the product, and we will talk about reviews in greater detail in a minute. Shipping information is very clear. If I have more questions about the product, I'll go to FAQ, to the FAQ tab. Everything I need about that product is right there, laid right in front of me, right? So I don't have to keep like going back and forth, clicking back, going back to Google. Like it saves me a lot of time. You save a lot of time for people shopping. You're actually making it easier for them, right? And if you make it easier for them, it increases the likelihood of them buying from you. So I think that's why this is really, really a critical piece on your website.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, product information is very important, like Dorit explained. So that's why we pay attention to structure the information based on these different categories. So one of them, just to recap, is we want to have pictures and videos. The next thing is the features and the benefits of your product. And ideally, they should be presented in some kind of bullet form, right? These are called the bullets, because it's easier for your website visitor to scan. And this is a good point also to know, is that online we usually don't read, but we scan. That's why, for example, here, this is a good example. There are bullets and some areas are bolded for that reason, so that somebody can just come and scan, for the most important thing. So you have features. Of course, make sure you have like a fuller description of the product. It can be text with pictures. And then it's important to have FAQs related to the product. And the reason for FAQs is actually to help your customers or potential customers, but also you. As you start noticing that questions come in, right? This is a great place to add them, right? Let's say there's a pattern. You've got 2-3 questions over the last month that are the same. That means people need to know that info, so you plug it in. That's why it's very useful to have an FAQ section, and not a FAQ that just hides somewhere on your website, which often what we see, but actually a FAQ that is specifically for this product, right? Or a product category. Like in this case, it's a category of products where the FAQs are similar for all products. So you can present that. And then finally, do your best to show shipping information on the product page as well. A lot of times the shipping info is like hidden somewhere on the website. And then that question is difficult for your website visitor to find, because this is a product page where people make the decision. Is this interesting? Is it like, should I buy this? So showing the shipping info as much as possible in detail is also important. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's like a few small things also consider. We've learned, especially if your product is a high value, meaning it costs at least a few $100s. It's also good to have some kind of payment option on a website. When we see some 5%, sometimes even 10% of people take advantage of it. So in this case, there is an integration with a service called Affirm. Maybe you've heard of it. Relatively easy to do. You apply for it as a brand, and then once they approve you, you can just plug it into your store as an option. So when people check out, they can say, okay, I'm going to pay this in installments. So for you, as a business owner, you get the full amount, paid to you from Affirm, and then your customer just has payments established with that company. So for high value products like this one, for example, it's more than $4,000, then this Affirm option also works. 5 to 10% of customers take advantage of it. All right. So this is product related. Dorit, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to say that specifically because we have experience and we've been growing and supporting this brand for almost 5 years now. What is really important is to have a thread of like a connecting piece between your customer support team, and if it's one person, it can be that person, to your web, the people who are taking care of your website, right? So in our case, we're kind of like an outsourced department for certain brands. And why it's important is because as you have customer support questions and inquiries, it's very important, and especially if it's something that keeps repeating again and again, it's important to keep updating the product page, right? Because if one person, 2 people, 10 people have that question, most likely, the rest of the people who are landing on these product pages have the same question. So you'll save yourself a lot of time answering these questions, but more importantly, because here's the thing, what we've learned from, our years in business is that most people are actually not going to pick up the phone and call, even though, Art, if you scroll below, there is the option of asking questions. But most people are actually not going to pick up the phone. Most people are actually just gonna, do their own thing. And if this information is not there, they're just gonna leave, right? So yeah. It's very different. Actually, I think, Art, we should also mention selling online is it's a completely different experience than, for example, if you go to the store and there is a salesperson or a sales rep there to sell to them. When you have that human element included in the selling transaction, you can kind of, the fact that there is a human there and hopefully this person is nice and empathetic and listens to the customer, that adds a lot of points and to the likelihood of, making the sale. Online, you don't have any of that, right? With the exception, of course, we recommend always to have videos. That's how you can make, your brand and the experience of shopping more personable. But online, you don't have any of that. So here it's kind of cold in a way, no hard feelings, right? If your website doesn't provide that information, I'm out. So we call it in our team, we call this empathic marketing. We call it kind marketing. So these pieces are important to kind of think about in the strategy before we, create the website and before you put together how you want it to look like. We always make sure to think about the end user. Who is going to use this website? Who is the ideal customer? What questions, what problems they have? And then around that, we create, the way the product is going to be presented.
All right. Yeah, very well. Okay. So with that in mind, so product presentation is important. We talked about that. And then let's move on to our third pillar, which is social proof. Okay. What's social proof? Let's say you present your product in a nice, great way. The next thing people want to know is like, who used this product so far, right? Is there anybody else who had success with this product? So what we want to make sure is also to show some success stories of other people who are not us talking about our product, right? Because we can talk about our product as, oh, it's the best thing in the world. But what about people who actually bought the product? What do they think, right? That's why online you probably noticed that reviews, for example, product reviews or brand reviews are pretty big, right? They're everywhere right now, and there's a reason for it. And then they do affect the decision making of the customers or the people coming to your website. So let's look at an example. For example, we have here another website. All right, so what we want to see. So this one is also epicgardening.com. They have a store that sells different products. And this is a category page, right? It's best sellers category. And then over here, right away, you see, 5 stars and the number of reviews, right? This is 1,700 reviews. So that's a lot of reviews. You see, there's a difference between seeing 2 reviews for a product versus 1,700, right? For people who are experienced buying online, this makes a difference, right? That shows me, okay, this product is popular. A lot of people leave reviews. Mm-hmm. So these are called product reviews, right? So we'll click on the product. Let's see what happened here. Maybe we discovered a bug on their website. Again, this is one of the websites we just found online, just looking for a good example. Yeah, so you see how they present their reviews. So they have 1,700, and then their product reviews actually look great because they have not only words and stars, but also pictures, right? And that's what adds to the experience.
And Art, I also want to add this whole thing with the reviews. I feel like a big influencer or a big company that we kind of are trying to emulate, not because we are, we're trying to be like them, but actually because I'm talking about Amazon. When we buy on Amazon, reviews is kind of like part of your decision, right? To either purchase or not. And so we do this because people got used to purchasing from Amazon. So we're trying kind of to emulate this piece. What's important also to have on your website is you see that little black circle with a check mark next to a name. That means that this is a verified review. And now as users are becoming smarter and smarter online, they pay attention to that stuff. What this means is that this is not a fake review. This is a real review after somebody purchased this product. So Art mentioned the post-purchase stage, buying stage. This is where this is super important. You need to have a system that sends an email to that customer asking them for a review. You ask them for a picture, you ask them for a written review, for a star rating. Once somebody did that, they submit, then this review comes to the website and it will be a verified purchase. Art, exit this for a sec. There is a review there. See L&B. This review doesn't have the little circle. That means this is not a verified purchase. Now, again, maybe most people still don't know that. I think this is a real review, but some people start paying attention to that. And if a lot of reviews are they don't have that black circle with a V, that means that, it kind of raises some suspicion. So I would say this is also something to pay attention to when you are designing your shopping experience for people.
Yeah, it's important. I wouldn't say that it's critical yet, right? We're getting there as an industry, meaning as shoppers become more internet savvy, shoppers, then they will start paying attention. Right now, it's still in the early stages, but depending on different industries, some industries already becomes important. In the gardening, we're getting there. So if you have a choice between having reviews that are real but they are not verified, meaning they didn't leave a review through the like post-purchase process, but you ask them to leave a review later, let's say, and they came and they sent you an email and you posted it on their behalf. It's better to have that review than not to have it. So I would say post it. It's better to show, especially if you have pictures or even videos, right? Like they did it here. Pretty good job, right?
Yeah.
And then going back to this website, also, I believe here, yeah, similar, just it's a different presentation of reviews, but it's also on the product page. There is pictures, there's words,
it's verified.
Also verified, yeah, and tells you when the review was left. So these are product reviews, very important to have. So I would encourage, every company that wants to sell online to have reviews. Now, one of the painful things that happens to us actually a lot when we start talking to a business owner or a company who's been around for a while, let's say 10, 20, sometimes 30, 40 years, and they have like a handful of reviews, right? And in today's world, it's kind of strange because we want to say, we're in business for 30 plus years and we have like 7 reviews. It doesn't align properly, right? If I've been in business for decades already, I should have a lot of social proof, meaning that I served a lot of customers. They were happy. They sent me a review, a testimonial, right? So what we do in these cases is we start reaching out to all the past customers. Unfortunately, it's a very manual process and it requires time, but it's very valuable online. So in these cases, let's say you are an owner of a company that's been around for a while and you don't have a lot of reviews, meaning you have just a handful, then that would be a worthwhile activity for you, is to start collecting reviews from your past customers, reach out to them. And sometimes, even though it's not, sometimes the big companies like Google, Facebook, they don't recommend to give an incentive in exchange for a review. But because human nature, and if you didn't have a relationship with your customer for more than a year, then you reach out to them, you ask them for a review. Sometimes you need to offer them something, maybe some kind of discount or some kind of gift card for your store or some other store, just really to compensate for their time. It's not about asking them for buying a good review from them, but rather compensate for their time. So sometimes that works as well, right? Once the system is automated, meaning what Dorit mentioned is, an order comes to your store, and there's a system set up in the back that sends an email, a nice email to your customer that says, hope you like the product. Would you mind leaving a review? Once this is established, then you start collecting reviews automatically and you don't need to do all the manual work, right? But in the beginning, it might be time consuming, but it's worthwhile the time.
Yes, absolutely. And I also wanted to say, we've had some questions from people who, okay, let's kind of be honest here. As store owners and us as somebody who supports our clients who own Shopify stores, we do have control over the star rating, right? Like we can either show it or we can hide it. And so we've seen in some cases where brands are actually being kind of selective and they choose to show the 5 stars or the 4 stars and hide everything that's lower than that. We actually think that this is a kind of I wouldn't say it's wrong, but I would say kind of think again, going back to kind marketing, empathic marketing. This is, you are helping to solve a problem for a person. It's real people, right? It's a real human being who is making the purchase. First of all, we don't want to lie. We don't want to, if your product sucks and you keep getting negative reviews, this is great feedback that you need to take some action and improve your product, right? So that's number one. Number two, for trust building on the website, when people are browsing and looking at your product, we've noticed that people would much rather buy from a brand that have sprinkled, the maybe not the 1-star reviews, but the 2 and the 3-star reviews. And but it looks like it's an honest review, right? This way it adds also to the trust factor of your website, that you're not strategically pre-screening all the negative reviews, because people, again, going back to a savvy shopper, we see that people today are getting in this trend is getting built. We need to also be mindful of that, to make sure that social proof is real, it's authentic, and it's trustworthy, right? And I think actually Amazon, they do a great job of that. Like when you see 1,000 or more than that reviews, you trust it because you know that they're verified. So do the same on your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just to complete that thought about social proof, we have what's called product reviews, which we looked at. There's also a few other types of reviews that you can also leverage. One of them, we call them customer stories in our work. Some people call them case studies. And these are also can be considered reviews, but they have a little bit more detail. That's why we recommend setting up a separate section or a page on your website where you have space for that. So let's say in this case, there are over 200 stories for this brand, and you see how they're organized in a way that, visitors can browse. And then when you click on each one, some of them have, you see like multiple photos. They have some questions and answers that they provided. So it also creates some social proof, right? Meaning this person, you see a name, there's a location. They had certain success using this product. So now me as a visitor to this website, I feel like, okay, this brand seems like it's
legit.
It has social
company.
proof. Yeah. So from here, really the transition is related to trust signals. Okay. That's pillar number 4. And trust signals are essentially things that make a website visitor trust your brand. Okay. These are things that they send a signal. That's why we call it a signal, because these might be little things that as a website visitor, that person will feel like, oh, okay, I can trust this website, this brand, this product. So what are the trust signals? So we spoke about reviews. So reviews are definitely a trust signal, right? Even though we treat it as a separate pillar, but it is a trust signal. There are additional trust signals is who are the people behind the brand, right? One of the important pages on a website that is often overlooked from our experience is the About Us page, right? A lot of companies are focused so much on their product that they forget to talk about like why this company exists, where did it come from, who are the people behind it. So what we want to do is we want to create a page, About Us page, and show the humanity behind the brand, right? So for example, on this page, you see about Planta. There's a video over here. There's, information that there's also shown where people use their products, right? And then there's big companies big organizations use it. That's one example. Second example, also a good one. I believe Epic Gardening also has a pretty good, even though you see for them, it doesn't appear on the top navigation, which is a shame. It probably should. Let me see if I can find a direct link to their About Us page. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so you see, here's another example. It's the humanity behind the brand. And right away, they show a story of the founder, Kevin, right? And then there's some principles and another person here, another picture, right? So there's a picture of real people on the About Us page. So this creates, for sure, some kind of trust between the visitor and the company. The other part of the trust is also making your brand look like a leader in your industry. Okay, so as a visitor, you come to a website, what makes the visitor feel like, okay, this company is a leader of this in the niche and the industry, right? So, for example, things like what we looked here, if like famous organizations choose a brand, that's some kind of leadership, trust signal. Another thing is how professional the website looks like. We associate that clean and clean looking websites are usually more like famous big brands usually have clean websites, right? Whereas opposed to this type of website is usually associated with like a smaller company, right? Less professional. So that's another trust signal. So that's why trust signals is an important component, is we want to have them. There are a few other small ones as well that are good to add to your website. For example, having payment details or little logos of payment available, maybe somewhere on the footer at the bottom of your website. It also helps. For example, here you see these are like famous payment methods that also create association of some trust, and also having links to your social media profiles. Okay, these are trust signals. And finally, what Dorit was talking about before is having your contact information visible everywhere. Okay, very important because a lot of stores, unfortunately, like they want to hide the contact information, especially for higher value products. It's important because if you sell a product that is, let's say, under 100 or even under $200, it can be considered more like an impulse buy, right? You could sell your product and that doesn't require a lot of thinking, especially if it's under $100. But once you start getting into hundreds or even thousands of dollars, then, the contact information and the trust signals become so much more important. So having contact info sprinkled everywhere at the top of your website, at the bottom, when you go on a product page, right? Let's say we'll open here multiple times. Have a question, call us, right? And here again, have a question, ask a question with a form. And then at the bottom, you see, so the more you offer, the more this creates trust that this is a real company.
And also, I think it shows that you have a great customer service, right? Like you're there, you're available for people. Are you finished talking about trust building?
Yes.
Because there's a resource that I want to mention on our website, on the blog. There's a beautiful article that we created that it's all about trust, and I really want you to spend some time reading it because it will help you really understand that human emotion, that's trust. It's called How Do Smart Shopify Brands Win Customer Trust in a Crowded Digital World? I'm also going to make sure to include this link in the description of this video. Please have a look and read. We are using the acronym BRAVING, which we are kind of borrowing this concept from Brene Brown, who is a shame and vulnerability researcher from Texas. And it's really important. BRAVING stands for setting boundaries, reliability, being reliable for your customers, holding your brand and also customers accountable for what matters. Vault, the V stands for Vault, and Vault is really about safety and security. Helping people to feel safe on your platform or within your space, right? So they should feel like buying from you is safe. You're gonna keep their credit card information safe and secure. The I stands for integrity. So integrity is also an important, kind of human feature that it's interesting to see. There are many different kind of ways we can show integrity on the website. So something also to look into. And there are some examples inside of this article. The N stands for being non-judgmental. More details in the article, and also being generous. Generosity online Some examples, you can give promotions, you can give periodically, you can give discounts. Also, if you are into like, we call it Humanity Plus, if you support some important causes, make sure that this is also incorporated on your website. Specifically, if it's something that's relevant to your industry, that's what we would recommend. It's another trust builder, right? Trust building, helping people to feel, oh, these are real humans and they care about the world. And in today's world, those things matter. So just a few more examples related to trust. Again, I'm going to include the link to this article. I think it's a great read.
All right, great. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Dorit. So yeah, let's move on to our next pillar. We call it the how-to content. Okay, so in the gardening niche, any products that are related to growing and gardening, a big component of success online is really education. Okay, because your product is being used by people who grow either for professionally or as a hobby for their own personal use. So a lot of the usage that is done is really related to like how to use your product, right? And what can be done with this product. So that's why the how to content, especially for the gardening niche, that this category of products is very important. So what is how to content? Is essentially education, and education can be done in multiple ways. The most basic one is written content, right? To have articles that talk about topics that are relevant to your product and to your customers. So, for example, if we talk about, let's say this website here, Planta, they have a whole resources section that talks about, topics that are important for their customers, right? About greenhouses, about bases, whatever is relevant to greenhouses. That's one way to educate customers. And also just keep in mind what we spoke about before, that depending on which stage your website visitor is in, the buying stage, they might want different types of content. Okay. So if somebody is in the research stage, they want one kind of content, where if they start getting into consideration or into purchase and post-purchase, different type of content. So for example, here, let's talk a little bit about how to content for people who are in the research phase. Okay. Somebody who is researching about greenhouses, they might want to know content that is more of this nature. You see, beginner's guide for greenhouse owners, right? So this type of content is great when you're researching. But once you start, okay, you got the idea of what you want, you start considering, then that different type of content is important, right? You want to know more about the durability of the product, the delivery, about the company, right? These kind of things. And then we have the purchase and post-purchase. Very important also in terms of education is how will people use your product once they get it? That's another opportunity for you to educate, right? The customer, how to use it successfully, because from there, other things will be also like a consequence of that education. So for example, for this product, again, we're talking about greenhouses, like the installation and the setup is somewhat complex because it's a large structure. So what we want to do is with post-purchase, we want to provide a lot of content about the setup and the different configurations of this product, right? Your product might be already coming with some kind of manual or some instructions, but usually there are more things that you can educate people about to help them be more successful. So in this case, you might have, let's say, what do they have? Installation videos, right? Organized by product. And then there's step-by-step installation videos. Or you might have another section, tips and articles, right? See, expert tips. So things that are relevant to people who bought the greenhouse already. And what how they can use it more successfully. So if you educate people at that stage as well, after they've purchased, the likelihood of getting a good review is also much higher because now they're happy, right? And it also builds trust. When you're educating, it actually feeds into the trust because now you look like a leader in the market, meaning you're an expert. You know your stuff, right? About whatever you're selling. So that's why how-to content is very important, especially for this types of products related to gardening.
And something else, something that in addition, that I want to add about how to content. This is especially important for people who have a brick and mortar store and also have an e-commerce store as an extension or as an another channel of their sales being online. What we see with a lot of brands that we help, the people, the business owner or the founder of the company is so passionate and is so, all knowing about the product. It's really difficult to share all of this expertise online. And what we see them do is they invite people to call them. And yes, we did mention have the contact information, have the phone. And yes, we do, of course, want to help people reach out. However, what this creates, and we see it all the time, it creates a very unsustainable kind of operations, especially for founders. We see that the business owners, some of them that we work with are overworked, overscheduled, and kind of big, especially when you are in business for, over 1 decade, 2, 3 decades. It kind of creates or adds a little to the resentment of your own business, of your own creation. So one of the ways we use how to content is offloading some of that, repetitive answering questions, and maybe you as a business owner, you find yourself answering or talking about the same thing over and over again. How to content can be really handy because you create a video, you basically put all of your know-how about the product into a good quality video, and you put that on your product page. This video is now an extension of you, and it works even when you're sleeping. It works even when you're sick. It works and it sells, right? I should say, instead of work, I should say it sells instead of you when you're on vacation. This is an extremely important piece of our work that we do, but also it adds to the trust factor, and it also adds to the likability of somebody buying from you, because they would think, oh, this company is legit. They've been in business enough many years, so I trust them. But also they put in the effort of creating a user experience that I want to be a part of that. And then Art also mentioned that for the post-purchase time, when somebody is more it's more likely for them to give you a review. What happens there, and this is really awesome, and we see it with our clients too, is customers become your brand ambassadors. So now they're happy, overjoyed to share about your product, about your company on their social media, on their platforms, or they're happy to talk about you to their circles, and all of this is something that you as a business owner have control over, right? I mean, of course, not direct, but this is where we kind of lean on the humanity plus aspect, the reciprocity. When you prioritize it and build it into your brand and how it's presented, it happens. It's just natural that it happens. So yes, please make sure that, especially if you have a brick and mortar store, do invest time and also find money into building a how-to content library.
Yeah, definitely. Great point. And also, it might be good also to mention that for some business owners, they might not be comfortable to do it themselves for whatever reason. Either there's no time, or they just don't want to be the face of the company, especially for video creation. It happens sometimes. In that case, also possible to ask your team member to do it, or in rare, also it works when you outsource, especially for written content. It can be done by an external team as well. For example, we help brands with how-to content, especially in a written format. And then if it's completely not available, we also create slideshow type video presentations that is also how-to content, right? So it can be also outsourced and done by external team members, but we see that it's best if the owner or some key members of the team record how-to content as well. It works to educate, but also create trust, right, behind the brand. So how-to content is important, and that's a great transition to our other 5 pillars that are, I think they're more known, but they're very important, and they're kind of like a given in today's world. So I wanted to go through them with Dorit today. And we'll go through them a little bit quicker, but still give you some examples of what each one means. All right. So transitioning from content into email list, which is our 6th pillar, is the whole email marketing related topic related to e-commerce. So what is email list? So email list is actually one of your probably most important assets for your e-commerce brand, right? Essentially, it's a list of people with either they are customers already or potential customers. And why is it important to pay attention to that part? We see that a lot of brands, I think by now most websites have some kind of space where people can sign up to join the email list. However, it's done not always the right way, meaning you come to a website and there's some kind of prompt that says join our newsletter. Okay, so let me see if I have a good example here. Maybe, let's see here. All right, let's look at this website here, which is another greenhouse brand. You come to their homepage and, there's a little blurb over here that says join Noah Greenhouse VIP list. To me, it doesn't mean anything. As a website visitor, let's say I'm in a research stage or in a consideration stage, what does it mean? What's the value here? Like, why should I put my email here, right? So this is actually very common. A lot of brands, e-commerce brands have that on their websites. We found from our experience that a better way to get people to join is actually to show them some kind of educational content that will be more appealing to them, right? So we know that, for example, for this brand, Planta, there's a big research phase to buy their product. So people are looking for this information. And when they click, they will be prompted with this kind of download sign up form, right? So here what happens is when they download, we give them something valuable, but also their email now is going to be part of our email list, right? For this brand. So now we can actually contact them and either support them or offer them more educational content. So through email, we see that for a lot of e-commerce brands, 10, sometimes 20% of their revenue, again, it depends on what you're selling, and sometimes it can go higher. Let's say 10 to 20% of their revenue is as a result of a follow-up done through email, right? If it's set up and done properly. So that's one example. And also for the last few years, there's another way to do it. This is called SMS. Sometimes also giving an option for people to sign up with their phone number, mobile number, is also becoming popular, especially if they're visiting your website from their phone. Okay, it's much easier for a person on their phone to put their phone number as opposed to an email address. So SMS marketing and email is kind of right now merging into one category. Okay, one way, like managing a list. So there is a big overlap. But still, email list is an important component, and we highly encourage you to create a way for a person to sign up and by
Art, can I
offering them
also,
education.
yes, I also want to add, especially if you're spending money to bring traffic on your website, this is an important piece because you spend money, the person came to your website. If you're giving them something in return, you've captured their email. So now you have them in your email list, and you can keep sharing whatever other offerings you have, versus you spend the money, you bring traffic to your website, the person is on your website, but then they leave, and that's it. They'll never hear from you again. You never hear from them again. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit of a waste, right? So ahead of time, if you spend some time strategically and design a piece of content that again, going back to kind marketing, that the users of your website, the shoppers in your store they're looking for it anyways, design it, have it available, and gift it to them. So I think this is another kind of important aspect to email marketing and why we do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point, Dorit. So, yeah, the reason what you mentioned is actually very important. Again, if let's say 100 people come to your website, right? Statistically speaking, for most e-commerce websites, what we call a conversion rate, right, is about 1 to 2%. Meaning, if 100 people come, 1 or 2 become a customer. The question is, what happens to the other 98? Okay. And 2% is considered a really good conversion rate if you get a lot of traffic to your website. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and what happens to the 98%? They just leave, or it just happens to be that they're still in the research phase and they want to see other options. Right. So a lot of websites, especially like with this example, there is no way to capture an email, right, or some kind of contact information. So a person comes, they look at the products, and they're like, okay, let me go back to Google and see what else is available. So if somebody else does a better job of offering them some kind of useful content, there's a chance to capture those contact information and then higher chance to make them a customer. So let's say 1 or 2% of your website visitors become a customer, hopefully. Then by offering a good email sign up option, you can capture a few more percent of people to join your list, right? So instead of losing 98%, you might be adding a few more percent of people joining your email list. So now maybe 95% will still leave, but a few more percent will go into your list. So email is an important pillar. That's why it's right here, number 6. All right. So from here, we're moving into our 7th one, which is speed, right? In today's world,
I feel like I want to say duh.
Right. It's like, it's obvious because now it's been a part of the discussion of any website really on the internet for the past 10 years, probably, that faster websites, they perform better, meaning they sell more, they get people to contact you. There's more success with websites that are fast. Now, it's also a challenge in today's world because websites, they evolve and it becomes easier to update websites, post pictures, add things, constantly adding things to a website, which also makes websites slow, right? Let's say if you use Shopify as a platform for your e-commerce store, it's so easy to add apps to your store. There's so many free apps or like low cost apps, and you might be inclined to just keep installing apps for little functionality, but each app actually makes your website slow, right? So the easier it becomes to update websites, the slower the website becomes. That's what we see from our experience. That's why paying attention to speed as a separate part of your online presence is very important. So there are tools, right, from Google that allow you to test the speed of each page of your website and give you some kind of result. And the way you should look at it is that 2-3 seconds load time is the most that you want a page to load, right? Now, when we talk about speed, it's important to know that we're not talking about the speed of the whole website. You need to look at each page as a separate place where people might, potentially go to. So each page has its own speed. So for instance, let's say here, this page is very simple. There's just the opt-in form and this navigation at the top. It might load very fast. But if you go to like one of maybe a larger page, like this one is also, let's say the home page has more content and it might be a slow page because it has a lot of pictures. Maybe there's a video, a bunch of plugins or apps installed. So that's why speed, it's something that is important to pay attention to. All right. So moving from speed is another obvious one for today's world is mobile, right? We see that more and more people are buying using their phones versus a desktop or like an iPad or some kind of tablet. So phones, especially phones now become so much more versatile and convenient that having a good mobile experience is almost like more important than having this. Like we've been looking so far at how the website looks like on a desktop computer, right? Like a nice, full, large size monitor, and you see a lot of things. But what happens when it becomes a tiny mobile screen? Okay, so let's look at an example. Let's say we take this one. Okay, I'm just going to refresh to make sure we have the latest. Yeah. Again, we don't know this company. We just found it on Google just by looking for greenhouse, just to compare it, right? So I'm using here Chrome browser. Maybe you use it, and there's a cool feature here. It's like right click, click inspect, and it allows you to mimic like different devices. So there's like a little icon here with like a laptop and a phone. So you click there and it creates a view of how it would look like on different devices. There's a drop down here. So let's say iPhone 12 Pro, which is like a larger screen, and how this website looks like. So let's just refresh. So you see, for this website, it looks like they don't have a mobile experience that is good. And then let's look at another example. Hopefully this one is going to be a better one. So I'll go inspect and then put iPhone 12. You see how that big desktop website now became compact. You can still see the picture over here. There's a headline clearly visible and there's a call to action. And all of this is visible without needing to scroll. Right? Again, compared to this one, hard to read. There's no call to action. I don't see a cart.
I have to
like
zoom
this,
in.
Yeah, you need to zoom in to see stuff. Whereas opposed to this one, it's very easy, right? Even if you scroll, you see all the products now are organized in a neat way. And it just makes the whole experience so much easier, right?
Yeah. Especially nowadays, I guess, let's be honest, we shop when we're in a bathroom and we shop when we are in a pickup line. Yes.
Or on the couch watching TV, or on a lunch break, or in a park sitting, in the car or in the train.
Yeah, the phone is so much more than just a phone nowadays, right? It's a computer. And so again, going back to kind marketing, we need to be as a brand that, is fighting for the dollar, right? Because this is something that I can tell you for sure. Your customer is comparing you to others. This is something I can guarantee. So if you're fighting for their dollar, there are a lot of things that you need to do, but the least you can do is show them that you've taken the effort to design a user experience that will save their time. So, paying attention to speed, like Art said earlier, and also mobile, it's one of those
higher things that you have to that you need to prioritize in order to succeed online.
Correct. Yeah. And we put them kind of last on our list because they're more obvious and they're a given. It doesn't mean that they're less of a priority. Perhaps they're even more of a priority, but because they're just given, mobile is number 8 on the list. But again, mobile experience is important and it's something to pay attention to and on an ongoing basis. Yeah. All right. And then let's look at the final 2. The final 2 are related to how people use your website, right? Number 9 is navigation. So this will depend on the type of product you sell and the amount of products, like the quantity of products you sell. So, for example, if you sell only a handful of products, your navigation, it should always be simple, but then you can get away without having a search on your website. Okay. But if you have a lot of content, written content, video content, or you have a lot of products, then search becomes an important part of your website as well, right? So in this example, there is actually both navigation that is organized by category like this in the top, and there is a search as well, right? So this is an important part of an e-commerce website because we want to help the website visitors to find what they're looking for. So a lot of times what we see is the websites that come to us, maybe they're a bit dated. There's an assumption of how a person will navigate your website, but that assumption is often not true. The way our visitors come to the website and the way they use the website is different than what we think how they would use. So let's say in our work, we use different tools that allow us to see how people interact with your website. And then oftentimes we catch how people get stuck and they can't find what they're looking for. And then they just leave the website. And it's often the reason for it is because the navigation is not organized in a way that helps them to find what they're looking for. So what we want to do is we want to make sure, first of all, that our major categories of products are organized with a top navigation like this, right? Preferably with some kind of drop down that you can select. But even if people click on the category, they should still be able to navigate on those transitioning category pages. So that's one. And number 2 is we want to make sure that we also have some kind of search if you have a large number of products. And large means if you have more than 20 or 30 products, it's better to have a search. Or if you have more than 20, 30 articles and you keep creating articles, search is also important.
One thing I would like to add about navigation, it's kind of also related to product and how you present your product. Oftentimes, in the home and garden niche, which is our focus here at Shop Innovator, there are a lot of products that require high levels of customization. And from our conversations with, these business owners, what we see is they kind of gave up a little bit on selling online because, it's custom. Like, you can't sell I cannot sell my products online because somebody there's it's highly customizable. People need to call me and so on and so forth. So related to navigation, it's the fact that when you choose to sell a product online, please pay attention to how it's presented and how easy it is to navigate between the different kinds of products. So Art, for example, like if you show on that, the bad example of a website, of a greenhouse, you'll see that their products are not really organized. If you can exit the mobile version, please. Yes. What we've noticed is sometimes, especially for the highly customizable products, it's difficult to design a user experience that will help people purchase this product online. However, something that we've done with Planta, Art, if you go to Planta's website, and you go to their greenhouses. Yeah. See how easy, like click on Sungrow. See how easy it is for a person to purchase this greenhouse. The Sungrow is the model, but then that same greenhouse has different sizes, right? So versus, right? I think that's how it was before, or maybe it's been such a long time ago, I can't remember. But some products basically group one product under, one product page, which makes it so much harder for the user to choose and also imagine how the product would look like. But what if you take that product and just break it down, right? So present the model and then show it in different sizes. And what that means is maybe it's a more strategic decision that you'll have to make. Maybe I'm not going to sell the products that are highly, highly customizable, but maybe within my product catalog, there are some products that just come in different sizes or different heights. Those I can break them down and make them easier for the user to shop and buy. So in that sense, your business, your e-commerce store, it's not like it's the business. It's an extension of your business where you're helping people who are looking for your product buy your product, but you're making it so much easier, right? Versus like grouping it all under one product page and then call me for customization, right? So I thought, it's important to mention it because I think in your industry, in the gardening industry, as well as in the home industry, there are a lot of products that require high level of customization. Like we know, for example, saunas have a lot of customization options. And, from our conversations with people, it sounds like, they either give up, or they just live with that kind of decree. And here, our advice is maybe it's just a different way of presenting the product in a more innovative and a more kind of creative way.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. So just to recap what you said, part of the navigation is also a strategic way to, package your products in a way that are easy to order. So for example, this greenhouse kit, it really can be ordered in any size, right? Let's say the length of it can be any size. However, this brand, the owners there decided, you know what? We'll just package them in 5 common sizes that people usually need. And that's it. That's all that there's going to be. If somebody needs to extend their greenhouse, there is a kit they can buy to extend it. But we don't give them the option to order a custom size because that creates complication. So I think what you're saying is part of navigation is also organizing your products in a way that are easy to buy without having too many options. Yeah. So that's more of a strategic business decision as well. Yeah. Let's move on to our final one, which is really where all the business happens on the website. It's your cart and your checkout. So why is this an important component? Because we see that a lot of brands they put effort on how the homepage looks like, how the product page looks like, but then they kind of leave the default shopping cart functionality. Like just let's say if you use Shopify, you just keep the default cart and default checkout pages. And over there's actually a lot of opportunity as well. So it is an area to focus on as well. So there are a few things that can be done. So we'll just go maybe 1 or 2 examples and then we'll wrap up. So when it comes to cart, one of the probably easier things to do is to offer what's called an upsell. Okay. It's very easy to do. Again, if you're on Shopify, it might be, a very easy plugin or an app to install. And let's look at an example. Let's look at Planta. So when you add a greenhouse to your cart, you can add this kind of prompt that shows other things that a customer can buy related to their product in the cart. Okay. So like this is done with a basic app that probably takes half an hour to an hour to configure, but it can add a few more % of sales to the order, right? Increase your order value. And above that, you're also helping the customer to find the products that are relevant to their purchase, right? So again, depends on your product, what you're selling. But we know that in the gardening industry, there are a lot of related products that can be offered to a customer. So we know that this works really well as well. Okay, so that's one example of a cart improvement that can be done. And of course, cart page should always be simple to use, and it should help the customer just move on to the checkout after all the products been added. All right, so what we want to make sure is that payment information is easy to understand, like what kind of payment options you have, and that checkout is going to be easy to use. Some brands also add additional trust signals because cart is a decision-making point as well. So some brands also add little review snippets or other trust-building content that makes the customer feel safe to check out. Okay. For example, you can add a little warranty. If you have warranty for your products, you can reinforce it on this page as well to make the customer feel, okay, I can buy it and I can return it after 30 days if it doesn't work, right? As an example. So that's why paying attention to the cart is also important. And even though it's last, it's something to keep in mind as like a given. This is where the business actually happens. And that brings our presentation today to a conclusion. We looked at 10 different strategies that you can use to make your products easier to sell online.
Yeah, and I'm also just going to say, if you guys are interested and if you liked this video and this presentation, please give us a thumbs up, like our video, and follow us on social media, follow us on YouTube. We would love to hear from you. If you have still follow-up questions to this video, please feel free to head on over to our website, shopinnovator.com. We're very responsive. You can reach us through the contact page, or if you are ready to get some magic done and innovate your e-commerce website, there's also a way to book a discovery on our website, and let's talk, let's connect. We're right here to help optimize and elevate your e-commerce and Shopify website. Thank you. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Have an amazing day.